All right, hi guys. So today I'm posting some revamped old stuff from my oldies way back when I had a channel, a couple years ago. But I actually was posting things about the 1054 schism way back in 2016, which was an unprecedented event that I want to revisit and bring back to light now that we're having all these changes within the synod and here with the New World Order. And I know everyone's like, oh my God, it's a conspiracy, but it's really happening, okay? And in this is a lot of change. So we're seeing that on every front right now. So I want to touch on that and bring it to perspective with my Father's word. Okay, so with that being said, I want to also touch on just here, going back to the tree study, 7 years after, which brings us now into the 1061 rule of the mother from February 11th, 962. So we are here in 2023, as of today, we are seeing changes within the synod, which are going to change a lot of things now. And as I'm talking about the shift of power to the 10 kings, this is indicative to understand how the mother's rule for 1061 years is now being transferred over. And this will be represented as the 10 kings now rising to their power, hour to power. And I want to also emphasize that there were two parts in the Isaiah 61 and 1. And when Yeshua completed the finished work, that the year of the acceptable year, the acceptable year of Yah was when Yeshua stood in that temple and declared it, and then he sat down. That's in Luke. So he was saying that Isaiah 61 and 1, in which you have heard this day, has been fulfilled. But there were two parts in Isaiah 61 and 1. The acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance. And this is what we are moving towards as a pinpointed perspective of truth. Okay, this is truth. Now, relegate that 7 years later from this unprecedented moment in 2016 when the Pope went to Cuba to meet with Russian Kirill of the Russian Orthodox Church was unprecedented, meaning that the doors were opening, or I should say windows, because thieves come in through the window, not the door. And in that sense, we are now seeing the fruit of the schism being healed, but also a great supplanter, a great betrayer, the man who sits on the seat of Satan today, moving in a fashion that pleases the kings, especially to denounce his authority, pontificate. And, he pretends that he has this power and authority, which he does. Yet he's also submissive to the men. He's submissive to now giving over this power, which is his destiny, destined by my Father, which we always have to remember. Like, he works in ways that he uses evil to fulfill his will. And that's what everyone's doing as they are rushing to the battlefield. Anyway, we want to be rooted in the vine, trusting in Jesus, knowing that our good Father has a better plan, and he will deliver us in this crossing over of the Jordan moment to everyone that is receiving him. So I just want to move in understanding with this message as a throwback, and know that we are governed by a sovereign right that is born within us, and representative of this tree, the vine that Yeshua has completed, and in all his mercy and goodness that we now take on as his children. So in that, it's enough for me anyway, and I don't need a religious leader or anyone to guide me, but a lot of people do. So in that sense, there's a lot of confusion within the Catholic Church going on. Not only that, but in Christianity itself. Like, how are we going to deal with all these changes and adhere to the word of God without being hated because we love the truth? Well, stand your ground. You don't have to go out there and fight. It's kind of a fight that's worthless when you're trying to go against the goats of society's norms and what they want. It's like, let them have it. This is a governance of Baal. This is church systems of Baal. They're going to do what they do, right? But to withstand in this time and stand your ground sometimes just means hiding away and trusting Yah and praising Yah and doing your due diligence in where you stand in your faith with Him and allowing that to flourish and knowing where you are in a position that you are loved, that you are precious to Him, that you are adopted in the faith, that you belong, okay? And don't let anyone ever steal that from you, no matter what they come looking like when the enemy comes and he's, or whatever, and trip up, because that's how enemy works. But Yah is gracious and good to provide us a way of escape. Thank Yah for that. Every single time Yah is faithful. So anyway, I just want to revisit this, and thanks for listening, everyone, and take care in these days. Stand fast, hold to the faith, put your faith and life in the blood of Yeshua, who is a better testimony and has a better way for us. All right, love you guys. Peace in Jesus' name. Bye. So today I want to present to you the parable of the trees. I think this is a very important parable to understand, to know our enemy. And of course, knowing your enemy is half the battle. So once we can identify who our enemy is, we're going to be better in knowing and understanding the enemy's attributes, his way, and how that mirrors the kingdom of Yah, which is completed by the finished work of Christ, marking the 1054 rule from Abraham to Yeshua, where Yeshua ruled Israel, not the world, through his spirit, his prophets, the priests, and the kings. So that 1054 rule is over, complete, and finished by Yeshua, who completed that work and is glorified now in the gospel and the testimony of his sufferings and the glory that follows is done. And the only thing that he has left to do out of Isaiah 61:1 is to complete the day of vengeance. So that's what we're proclaiming, because he's already done the day of the Lord, the acceptable day or year of the Lord, which was when Yeshua stood in the temple, the third temple, okay, his body in Jerusalem. So the son of perdition equally will do the same. And we've been taught by Vatican Jesuit theories, which are doctrines of devils that are not found in the Word. So today I'm going to expose those factions of how that relates to the trees and what Yeshua was telling us in those parables, which will unveil our enemy. Okay? So, and I want to thank James Wright, a gentleman I met along this path and this journey, who actually gave me this study and really made a lot of, gave me understanding into what the trees mean, because Yahweh has called us to be trees of righteousness, and Yeshua spoke in a parable that the Pharisees and the Sadducees couldn't understand. So the Holy Spirit will reveal all things in due time. And in that was what Jesus was saying, because we're supposed to keep his words and foundational words that he said, and not foundational theologies that we've been taught. So there's a difference, and it requires, I think the Christian realm really needs to use critical thought, which is no longer used, and understand our enemy as the mystery mother who deceives all nations. So she's able to deceive all nations, and you yourself as a soul are a sovereign nation. She can deceive you too. And so I don't war with people, I war with her. And that's why that spirit of her is always protecting the Trinity, the rapture, the millennial reign, and the 7-year trib. And I'm saying we need to get out of that box and break the chains of that and understand that the future is now. And the theology that we've been taught throughout Christianity is a lie. Okay, so I will turn to Judges 9. Judges 9. Alright, and then I won't go into the history of this, but I will talk about just where This parable started in Judges 9, beginning in verse 7. So it says, "And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice and cried, and said unto them, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, the Elohim may listen unto you. The trees went forth for a time to anoint a king over them. And they said unto the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness wherewith by me they honor Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? And the tree said to the fig tree, Come you and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said the trees unto the vine, Come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine, which cheers Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said all the trees unto the bramble bush, unto the trees. And the bramble bush, sorry. Then said all the trees unto the bramble bush, in verse 14, Come thou and reign over us. And the bramble bush said unto the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Okay, so there's the parable of the trees that represents one by one. We're going to go down. First was the olive tree. And the olive tree is represented by David, because David said that he was like an olive tree in the house of Yah, a green olive tree. And trees are rooted into the earth. But the olive tree represents the house of David. Okay, and so the first one, which was the olive tree, and we can find that in the fulfilling of the time when Israel was crying for a king because they no longer wanted God's commandments to rule over them. And actually their responsibility was to govern among themselves. So Israel had to govern among itself using the commandments of Yah, the priests, the king, and the Spirit. And we saw that perfect Spirit in Solomon through his wisdom and his understanding that he was blessed with. So David represents the olive tree, but in each tree, so the tree is the governing body of Yah. It is not the world, because those two things are separate. So Yeshua, or Yah, was always talking to Israel, because those are his chosen people, not the Jews. We have to define who Israel is. That is the spirit and truth, blood-bought believers of Yeshua today, who are restored by the new covenant, sealed in his blood. That's who you are. That's your identity, okay? It's not Christian. It's not this. It's not that. Your identity is important in the realm of understanding, and Yeshua is called Israel to return and to be adopted into his promises. So the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness wherewith they honor Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? So basically what the olive tree was not willing to do, he was not willing to expand the promotion of the power, authority, and right, and to expand it any further. Because why? He enjoyed that power for himself between God and man, and of course that pomp, that pride, that standing, that religious sector, I guess you would say, the religious spirit of it all. They didn't want to promote, or really maybe not trust and believe and have faith that Yah would really move through them. Or they just got comfortable, which we all can do, right? Alright, so they forebode their right. So then the olive tree went to the fig tree in verse 10. And the tree said to the fig tree, Come thou and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? So the fig tree represents Israel. So Israel had the promise of the sweetness of that salvation, the sweetness of all, and the fruit that God gave them, the land, the promise, and they were too comfortable in that position to really take up and govern the people of Yah at that point either. So we're also taking each tree as a period of time. So David's time, then Israel's time, and then here we come to the vine tree. Then said the trees, and notice they grouped up together, the vine and the fig. Then said the trees unto the vine, Come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine, which cheers Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? So there is the vine, which is our generation, and the vine is Yeshua, which he stated, I am the vine and you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So therefore, our generation has this opportunity, because we have now the wine, which is the grace, and the victory, of course, as well, and our ability to also have that truth and stability and the finished work of Yah. So we're not like striving to complete or work out our salvation through works. We enter in by faith. So so we are the vine generation, and even the vine denies its promotion or right or heritage or strength or taking up its power, because it's comfortable in the wine which has cheered Elohim and man, and they as well have lacked the faith to take this movement and to proclaim the sovereign power of their right, which is our right. Okay? So what was the problem throughout these trees who did not want to actually work in the power? Well, then all the trees went unto the bramble, which is not a tree. A bramble is a bush. It has unprofitable fruit. It is filled with thorns and nettles. But the bramble, obviously, is an agreement maker. And he enjoys and locks us in by government, agreements, constitutions, making oaths, always making that deal. Because how did Satan try to thwart Yeshua on the mount when he came to him after Yeshua was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights? He said, bow unto me, and I'll give you, this world, if you just worship me. So that was like a contract agreement that he was trying to usurp Yeshua's authority, because for that momentary power, he would have to recognize or fall into that agreement and somehow move from the sovereignty of everything that Yeshua represents, which was the power of Yah on earth, to get victory over Satan, which I'm sure Satan knew. And anyway, so that's how he works, in agreements. That's why we're following this Leviathan strategy of the nations, and that's why this is very important to understand, because our enemy is going to work in contracts that ensnare people into webs of deceit, which I believe you find in Isaiah 28. And under his path, so the path of Leviathan was a slithery path, and his shadow of Leviathan was darkness. And so that mirrors the shadow of Yah's protection of his wing. So that is the contrast of the two truths. Then said all the trees unto the bramble, Come thou and reign over us. And the bramble said unto the trees,
If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. All right, so the bramble is making an agreement with all the trees. So that's the Christians, that's with Israel, and that's with the Davidic promise, and also unto Abraham. And what is he doing now is he's making an agreement. He says, I'll gladly rule over you in government, in your 501c3, in your education, and everything that you delve into, because this world is his. And he'll gladly govern over all of the trees of the house of Israel. But notice that the contract says that they have to bow before him as king, then come put their trust in his shadow. So that's like putting the trust in all the government's going to do for you, putting your trust in how they're going to educate your children, putting your trust in how they're going to dictate war over your sons and daughters, where they're going to lead them, and anything else coming out of the shadow of the damn bramble bush. But if not, you're going to have a penalty. Let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. So you can see that right now, as far as the Syrian war and all of this chaos ensuing over there to push through this two-state solution to divide Jerusalem, it's necessary that all nations are in agreement with the interdependence, peace, and security gospel of the 322 to fight terrorism. And that is why, France just went over there and bombed Syria, as well as we partook in it. So today, I guess, expect something, but it's all factions of every nation that's involved in interdependence has to have sort of a 9/11 moment or a declaration in some way that's through the compassion, the peace, the security movement, the liberty that George W. Bush was proclaiming over the nations. And that was basically him saying, put your trust in me. May 1st, 2003. Also June 6, 2002, when he orated the two-state solution, which I went online today, and they have changed that date, which I found interesting. Anyway, but that's sort of that bramble bush saying, make an agreement with me, trust in me, and come under my shadow or my sovereignty. And that's what you're doing individually every time you sign on to any kind of man oath or governmental organization. That's the bramble or the system or the mountain of this government. And if not, and if you go outside of that agreement or you try to pull out, it says, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. So cedars of Lebanon are another heritage, probably what we're seeing in Syria concerning the death of those people, because Syria's been cursed by for its transgressions as well. So that's why we're seeing the fighting and the ensuing, because God has left that area due to Syria's transgression. It's not that he doesn't love them or that he doesn't love us all. I mean, we all have to sort of make these sovereign declarations on our own now. So let me go into John 15, where Yeshua says, I am the vine, and my Father is the husband. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he purges, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can you except you abide in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them, and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. But if you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you would bear much fruit, so shall you be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. So continue you in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken unto you, and that your joy might be full. There's our standing in the vine when we are keeping his word and abiding in him through the Spirit of truth, the power, the glory, his finished work, and upholding the gospel, which we should also, that is like, the armor of Yah that we have to also be keeping on to protect us through this period in time. So there's identifying the vine. Now Luke 6 and 44. It says here, and actually go, okay, verse 43. So Luke 6, verse 43. For a good tree brings not forth corrupt fruit, and neither does a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. For every tree is known by his fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of a bramble bush gather they grapes. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For out of the abundance of the mouth the heart speaks. So Yah's always talking about this heart-mind connection, and then the tongue, which is also a very powerful weapon. So in that understanding, he's telling us that the basic understanding for every tree is known by his own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs. And of course, what is that bramble? It is thorns and nettles. So can Israel gather figs or good fruit from making agreements with George W. Bush? No. Can you gather grapes out of the vine tree with George W. Bush in this governmental system? Or the 501c3 that all churches are tied into? Or the Mystery Mother, that is also a system that we're sown into to believe her lies? Nope. Yahuwah wants us to abide in his word. That's why any word not derived in this book, Trinity, Rapture, Millennium, 7-year trib, none of them have any faction, and none of them can stand without each other. So you take them all away, and you understand that the future is now, and we are heading to Jerusalem to divide it, and the man of sin, son of perdition, is revealed, and they're marching it out because Yahweh has put it in their heart to do so. Out of Revelation 17:17, they're in agreement through interdependence, peace, and security, which is the false gospel of the 322 of man, and they're going to do it. But anyway, I want to come to you with the tree parable and understanding. To know our enemy is to know half the battle. But basically, what we really need to be doing is putting our faith in the blood of Yeshua. I want to really reach the lost now, to know that he is going to deliver us and deliver you, and he's going to have vengeance on your enemy. But the choice is yours now. I know our parents have made a lot of bad decisions. They followed into that system of thinking. They raised their children into it. They sold out to Moloch. And I'm coming after you guys because there's still hope. And if you declare with your mouth the sovereign, taking out the power of Satan, first renouncing the sins of the father, seeking forgiveness about 70 generations, and then you put your sovereignty and ask for the sovereignty of Yah to be over you and yours in the blood of Yeshua. You're going to get Revelations 15, read it. You're going to get the victory over the beast, the number of his name, the man, the image, and the entire system of all of this bramble that we are all under. But we're not going to be under this forever because we're going on to a new heaven, new earth, which is our heritage. And you earn it by faith alone, and it belongs to you. And the Satan is trying to steal that from all humanity because he's a loser. and there's nothing good can come out from worshiping him. So get out of her, people. Get into the truth. Hold on to the words of Christ and trust him with your life. And I just pray for you all that you would I want to thank you for listening and have a blessed weekend, and may the peace of Yah guard your heart in all truth in Yeshua's name. Bye-bye.